Okay, how's everybody doing? Great. Okay, so obviously, getting going here today, working on the Redskins. Got to go out and have a good day. Guys that won't be out on the field here today, Agnew, Nick Bodden, Trey Flowers, Hand, Ragnow, and Tracy Walker. So those guys will not be out in the field. Diving into the Redskins, don't really know this team very well, so we got a lot of work, cut out for us. This week, got to learn, a lot of different names, a lot of different moving parts here, I would say, through the course of their season. So they got some, good players over there that we really got to make sure we know what they do well, where they line up, and how it can affect us. So just back at work, we got a good day here in front of us, early downs. Try to get out on the field, get everything moving in a good direction, and get ready for the weekend. So it's really where we're at. What do we got?
You balance staying the course with the way you want to coach and have your coaches coach, and yet look at different ways to coach or deliver messages if your results aren't what you want.
I think you always try to do every single week what's best for that week. So what may seem underlyingly consistent, which is what it needs to be, doesn't mean that you can't modify or change things as you go through each individual week and what's best for the team that week. So certainly we try to do that every single week and make sure that we're, doing everything to give ourselves a chance. Certainly from the standpoint of if there's something we need to do that's best for the team, then that's what we're going to do from that standpoint and try to keep it as most productive as we can. So certainly always looking for better ways to coach. That's got to be my job, and that's what I'm always trying to figure out every single week.
Just to clarify, you didn't mention Stafford. Is he practicing today, or what's?
He's kind of on the same program. He'll be out at practice. He's out on the field. He's kind of helping us with a lot of that stuff. He can do some things that he can do from that standpoint. But we're still kind of in the same ballpark with that week by week as far as that goes. Yep.
And with him, or with any player for that matter, how does record impact when a player returns?
Yeah.
Does results of the season, I guess.
Yeah.
Medical. What's the balance there?
I think for us, it's probably maybe a different conversation as you get closer towards the end of the season. But right now, where we're at, we're just, focused on this week and just worried about kind of everything that affects us for this week.
I think the deadline is coming up with the Austin Bryant decision. Has a decision been made?
We're kind of in the process of that. Actually, it's coming up this week, so we'll make a decision here, pretty soon, get another practice out there today and go forward from today. You know what? Yeah, I would say, something I think he's doing a really good job of, especially for as much time as he's missed. I thought his pad level is really good. I think his hand placement is pretty good. He's incredibly long. He's just kind of a different body type out there. And you can see where he's starting to get comfortable using his leverage and being a little bit more confident in kind of, the injury situation. And sometimes you see guys that are not using their body parts, maybe coming out of an injury to the fullest. And I think we're seeing that. It'd be good to get another day of kind of seeing him use all of that and have confidence in it, so that we feel good about that.
Obviously, going through some growing pains, playing some young players, but what do you see from their core, Haskins, Geis, and Warren, that maybe could give you guys some problems on Sunday?
Yeah, I think obviously, three really good young players. Really wouldn't forget about Adrian Peterson. That's going to be the number one guy for as far as what they do and kind of what brings a lot of juice to their offense. I think, right now for me, Haskins is doing a good job of really trying to learn the offense. I think you see in the games here where they've added on something with each of the games, and we'll get probably something a little bit different as far as that's concerned. You can see where they're kind of learning his skill set a little bit and what he does well. So probably a little bit more of maybe the read option sort of type plays where they can get him out into space, a little bit more movement plays. He's a really good athlete. He's really one of those quarterbacks that's not going to necessarily extend the play to run. He definitely will try to extend the play to throw the ball. He's got a huge arm. This guy can launch this thing down the field. So even when he's kind of unbalanced or in an awkward position, he can still get that thing down the field. So for me, you really see that athleticism and kind of that extra dimension that he can, provide to the offense when he's out there, and I think he's getting more comfortable with that. McLaurin is a speed guy. I think he's a really good receiver. He runs really good routes. I think that his production has been really high, so I'm sure they're trying to continue to build off of that as they go. And obviously the chemistry between the quarterback and him is going to be there, and those are things that have been really successful for him. Geis is another guy that we did a lot of work on coming out, and real familiar with him. I think he fits the same kind of mold with Adrian Peterson in the run game and what he can provide. Comes downhill, he's tough, he's physical, he can bounce out, does a good job. And he had a big screen the other day. He's got some good hands. They can move him into the passing game a little bit more, I think, than what he's been so far, and try to utilize some of those mismatches too in those situations. So I think they're really just trying to figure out the skill sets of those young guys, what they do well, and you can start to see snapshots of them being in those positions during the games.
An offense that hadn't, they went like a month without scoring, so do you have to twist your players' arms a little bit more? How do you make them understand that they can still be a dangerous offense when maybe just the public perception is like, they're not good at offense?
Yeah, I think for us in the NFL, certainly every single day we walk into that meeting room, we know the fine line between teams that win and lose, and if you're not taking care of business and doing things properly, you're going to get beat. It doesn't really matter what records are from that standpoint. There's good players on the field, and there's good players on the field across every single team. How those guys play on that particular Sunday, that's why we have to play the game. We have to find out, and we have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to give ourselves a chance to win from that aspect too. But I don't think it's that hard to put some of those players on that we just talked about and see those skill sets and see that if you make a mistake, how much they're going to make you pay. I showed a clip this morning of Adrian Peterson. He had a 90-yard touchdown run. So it's just like, if we don't do things the right way, they're going to hurt us. And they're going to come out and they're going to, they'll have a good game and we won't. So we have to have that same serious approach that we do every single week.
Which is something you don't see all the time. If you had a coaching change in mid-season, you had 5 games under Gruden and now 5 under Callahan. How much do you look at, the Gruden days and then what they're doing now since then, what may have changed or emphasized more, or personnel changes, or whatever goes with it?
Yeah, I think those are all really important things to look at, when you do kind of scan through the season and you take a look at, Jay and what he was doing with the offense, especially in the team in general. But mostly, I would say the offense, that's where the major changes have occurred from that perspective. So I think you take a look at that, you understand the things that they did well. And then when you look at things that they've done since the change, has occurred, what's carried over, what has changed with that, is there more emphasis in one area than the next? Is there something that maybe is a bigger priority for us defensively to have to stop from that standpoint as opposed to maybe what it was before? Is there any philosophical changes? Now, I would say for the most part, obviously with Coach Callahan's been there, he's been in the system, those guys, Coach O'Connell, they're kind of running very similar stuff to what they had before, because again, familiarity for the players is important too, so there's not going to be a big wholesale change from that aspect of it, but maybe some things here or there from a philosophical standpoint that you can see.
Has Peterson been one of your favorites to watch over the years? I don't like the game plan against him, but
yeah,
as a football appreciator.
There's no doubt. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him and the way that he plays the game, and I've had some great battles with him through the years, and just every time, I think for me, even just turning on the tape, this week and watching him and what he's able to do still at a high level, is just pretty amazing. And I think it's similar to like last year with Frank Gore. When we were getting ready for him, and just kind of you see those guys that have that sort of longevity, that sort of ability to just keep going. It's so impressive from a coaching standpoint, and I would say that he's so dangerous for us right now.
You mentioned doing some work on Geis coming out. They basically drafted their entire starting defensive line in the last 3-4 years here. Just wondering how familiar you are with those guys, even dating back to the draft.
Yeah, certainly, and they got a lot of guys from Alabama down on that team. So I spend a lot of time watching that tape all the time. I think Jonathan Allen is someone that to me is really impressive. I think he's a young player that's done an outstanding job of really playing with good technique, good pad level. He's a good fundamental player, gets great knockback at the line of scrimmage. He's very disruptive inside. So he's someone that's really, pretty impressive from that standpoint. Obviously, Sweat coming out last year, we did a lot of work on him getting up and ready for the draft. We know that he has an extremely good skill set. He's long, he can get on the edge. I think he's playing a little bit better in the run game right now for me than probably what we thought coming out of college, or what we didn't know coming out of college from that aspect of it, kind of at the point of attack a little bit more with the fundamentals that Coach Minuski's, teaching those guys and kind of their 3-4 principle stuff and the way that they set the edge. So I think that's been pretty impressive. Kerrigan, I got a ton of respect for him. I've watched him for years again. I'm pretty familiar with Purdue pass rushers. So I watched him coming out too back in the day, and I think he's another guy that's another really experienced player that's playing at a high level. Landon Collins, obviously a great player they picked up in the offseason. I think he's one of the ones that's really interesting to watch. He reminds me of some of the other guys that I've coached through the years where they're actually so instinctual right now. They play certain things really fast and they react to other things. And I think one of the things you'll see him is in the backfield quite a bit. And a lot of times people think that he's on a blitz or he's, part of a pressure package where he's really just, he triggers really fast in his reads and he can get and be disruptive into the backfield. So, another, great player for them there. I think Dunbar's another really good young player that they got outside in the corner position that I think has really improved, through the years. I think he's long, he's athletic, he can cover downfield, making a lot more plays down there. And obviously Josh Norman, we know how good of a player he is. So they've got a good combination, I would say, on defense of some experienced guys with some young guys. And I think you can see kind of that flow of knowledge back and forth with Coach Minuski and what he does and what he teaches. Obviously a former player, linebacker coach, was at San Diego for a while, coordinator in the league for a long time. So you can see a lot of all that stuff carry over.
I was going to ask about Dunbar. So
About what?
I was going to ask about Dunbar. Just a guy that's in his 5th season. It just really seems to be clicking for him. Gets lost in the shuffle on a bad record, but.
I think so too, because I think obviously a converted player, was a wide receiver at one point and then converted over to DB, and I think you can kind of see his kind of growth and his development from that standpoint. He's long and he's athletic, doing a better job at the line of scrimmage, doing a better job with his technique, and some of those situations or those games where they go match up and have different packages that they can run with Norman on the other side. I think he's really stepped up because he's going to get a lot more targets from that aspect of it, and I think he's made a lot of plays. So you could really see his kind of, maturity from that standpoint. Yep. Good. Okay. Appreciate it.